Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, we got some good topics to cover today, mainly staying in the NFL area. I'm going to talk a little bit about Ohtani. I'm going to give you guys my insight and some of my predictions on how I think the NFL divisions will play out. And, alright, so let's get started. So, Sean Payton really went in on Nathaniel Hackett and the GM, who is still in the building, by the way, so I'm not sure what his strategy is there. But, yeah. He said, I'm going to be pissed off. This is not a playoff team. Let's see. Of course, he added that it might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL last year. He said there's 20 dirty hands for what was allowed, tolerated in the friggin' training rooms, the meeting rooms, the offense. I don't know Hackett. A lot of people had dirt on their hands. It wasn't just Russell. He didn't just flip. He still has it. The BS that he hit a wall. Shoot, they couldn't get a play in. They were 29th in the league in pre-snap penalties on both sides of the ball. Another thing he said, doesn't happen often where an NFL team or organization gets embarrassed, and that happens here. Part of it was their own fault relative to spending so much time trying to win the offseason, the PR, the pomp and circumference, march people around, and all this stuff. Everything I heard about last season, we're doing the opposite. And then he took a dig at the Jets, actually. He said, we're not doing any of that. The Jets did that this year. You watch Hard Knocks, all of it. I can see it coming. Remember when Dan Snyder put that dream team together? I was at the Giants. I was a young coach. I thought, how are we going to compete with them? Deion's there now. That team won 8 games or whatever. So listen, just put the work in. So, he went after pretty much the whole staff on the Broncos there. Specifically Nathaniel Hackett. As well as he took a dig at the Jets at the end there, which was interesting to me. And it's a little harsh, but honestly, he's not wrong. What happened with what Hackett did last year, the way he ran things, was it was a poorly ran organization last year. That he just was not ready to be a head coach. He's much more built to be an offensive coordinator. But even that, we're not even sure of, because apparently Aaron Rodgers was constantly changing plays in the huddle. That's a reason that they're skeptical of Matt LaFleur as well. Like, was it him or was it Rodgers? We're not sure. So, I don't know. I think Hackett's just a better coordinator. He's definitely a better coordinator than he is a coach, but we'll see how he does with the Jets this year. And he has Aaron Rodgers anyway, so. All right. Now the thing with Sean Payton, and I think this press conference showed that he is ready to be instantly impactful, because he kind of has to be. Russell Wilson, we're not sure how much time he has left. He doesn't really get, especially after the way he went after Hackett, he doesn't really get a year to warm up, ease into the system. He has to, after those comments, and given where Wilson is in his career, he has to come in and really make a change quickly. And I think the best way to do that is to completely go opposite of what they did last year. It wasn't all Russell Wilson, obviously. He's completely right on that. But Russell Wilson is also not completely void of blame, but let me just show you. So, their points per game, they were last. They were last in third down percentage. They allowed the most sacks, and they were 27th in penalty yards. So offensively, they failed as a whole offensively. It wasn't just Wilson, although Wilson definitely did. Wilson definitely did take a bit of a drop last year. What I appreciate about it, though, is what I admire about it is Wilson didn't really ever come to the podium, get all defensive, or try to blame anyone else. He took all the criticism he got last year. And hopefully this year he comes back. And I think the Broncos, and this is if Sean Payton plays his cards right, I think they can actually surprise some people. They're not going to win the division or anything. I don't know if they'll win. They probably won't even make the playoffs, but I do think they're going to turn around completely from last year. So we'll see how that goes. So Aaron Rodgers did something that he never did in Green Bay yesterday. He took a restructured contract, a new 2-year deal, and took a $35 million pay cut, which is huge. Opens the door wide open for the Jets. Big step for him. And he's always... This was the one problem, the one thing that annoyed me. I don't know why he never did this in Green Bay. Could have gotten a lot better. Probably had more titles with Rodgers if he took pay cuts with us. And like I said, he's an all-around great player. I just don't get why he never did this. With Green Bay. But this is going to be huge. I mean, I like where the Jets are going. I do still have some concerns about obviously they're in a really tough division. And I do have some questions about that old line of theirs, but I think the Jets are looking to make huge improvements from where they were last year. All right, so obviously after Justin Herbert signing yesterday, the questions came out about Joe Burrow, when he's going to get his extension. He said he's in no rush to get an extension, gets done when it gets done. Which I think is a perfect answer. I mean, as a quarterback, you also have to bring leadership. You can't just say, oh, I throw the ball really well, and there's more that comes with it. You have to be a strong leader, and I think Joe Burrow checks all the boxes that you want in a quarterback. He has not disappointed at all. The only year that wasn't great was the year where he tore his ACL. But the Bengals are looking up. I think they have... If anyone's going to take the Chiefs' top spot, it's most likely going to be the Bengals. I would take the Bengals over the Bills, not only because of last year, but honestly, I feel highly towards both teams, and I'll go over my division rankings in a little bit after. In the next few segments, I'll go over my division predictions as the NFL season is coming up. So, all right. First, I want to talk about Mac Jones. He said he's ready for a fresh start. And I may be nitpicking here, but he said he thinks his relationship with Belichick is good. I'm probably nitpicking, like I said. But I feel like most quarterback and coaches know if their relationship with each other is good. You know, and honestly, the problem I have with Mac Jones is he's really. I mean, what was it? Maybe 3 years ago already, or two. I'd say 2 years ago. Where the draft was coming up, and I had Mac Jones as my bust of the draft. I think a lot of people did. Because when's the last time Alabama produced a good quarterback? Now, Jalen Hurts looks good right now. I'll admit that. Jalen Hurts looks promising. But keep in mind, it's 1 year. He hasn't had a fully... The last quarterback from Alabama to have a good career, I think, was Ken Stabler, who played in the 70s. So, it's been quite a while. The way... And I mean, Nick Saban is obviously the best coach in college football history, but his system has never... His quarterback success has never translated to the NFL. And like I said, Hurts looks promising. But, you know, Tua, I mean, he looks like he can be successful, but, you know, he doesn't look like anything he hasn't shown much to be too excited about. The problem I have with Mac Jones is, I think his rookie year, which was probably his best year, I think he has to be in a specific system. Like, the system has to be ran in a specific way for him to succeed. The kind of like, honestly, like Daniel Jones. And I would take Daniel Jones over Mac Jones. Don't worry about it. But it's just like, I feel like they're more successful when they have the ball less. When they're throwing the ball less, they're more successful. Which, it's not too good. Alright, so let's shift to baseball briefly. The Angels have taken Ohtani off the market, which, good for them, and probably, despite some of my speculation over the past few days, good for a lot of teams in the league, because honestly, I think the reason the trade never happened is because they weren't getting the package they were looking for, which was probably a significant amount of... They were probably looking for teams to gut their farming system. And even though I said it might be worth it, I was probably wrong. It probably isn't. Because you're going to have to be paying Ohtani a lot. So you're actually going to need those guys later on to kind of soften the impact of Ohtani's contract. They're going to need those minor league players going to the majors, those prospects later on, paying too much to all these players. And I mean, I know every MLB player wants to win a World Series, but it doesn't seem like... I mean, in the NFL, as a quarterback, if you don't win a ring, you're normally... career is normally devalued. I mean, even Drew Brees won one ring, and people still hold that against him a little bit. Basketball, it's really held against you if you don't win a ring. Iverson and Barkley, Karl Malone, all those guys would probably be much higher on some all-time lists had they won a ring. But in baseball, it doesn't seem to typically be held against you if you don't win a World Series. Ken Griffey, it's not held against him, Ted Williams, or Barry Bonds. Those three guys are obviously very great players. But they never won a World Series, but it's not taken away from them. I mean, obviously, I think it helps a lot of players' case for when they have to get to the Hall of Fame, but I mean, Ted Williams, Hall of Famer. Ken Griffey, Hall of Famer. So... And I'm sure it helped, like, for example, Derek Jeter. I'm sure it helped his case into the Hall of Fame, but... I mean, I think Ohtani's going to be a Hall of Famer if he keeps us up for a little bit more time. Because he has already put together quite the career. I think he has, he has a decent amount of time left in his prime. And then I think once his prime is over, he'll still have some time to tack on some of those big milestones. How about 3,000 strikeouts, 3,000 hits? Is that on the table for Ohtani? Probably. But honestly, Ohtani is... I think he's honestly beyond generational talent. It's basically, when you think about it, it's like if Patrick Mahomes was also a great defensive back. Like, if he could also play defense, that's pretty much what this is. Ohtani can pitch and hit equally well. And it's really something special. So if the Angels... Honestly, the Angels aren't too far back from the playoffs, surprisingly. If they can sneak into the playoffs and... Yeah, they're only 4 games back. If they can convince Ohtani that the Angels have a decent future, and if they make the playoffs this year, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't keep him. Alright, so the NFL starts in 42 days, which is sooner than it sounds like. Now, there's some... The only things I know for sure are... I don't know exactly in order. The winner of every division, then second, then third, then last place. I think I have a good idea of who's going to win each division and who's going to come in last. So AFC East, I'm going to say the Bills win it, with the Dolphins and Jets battling for second, being a very close second as well. I just have, like I said, I have some concerns with the Jets. I know the Jets have Vera Tucker and Mekhi Becton, but first of all, Mekhi Becton hasn't really stayed healthy too much. But, what about the rest of the offensive line? That's my only concern. Their O-line, and for the Dolphins, my concern is Tua's health. If Tua can't stay healthy and they got... I think their backup situation is better this year than last year. Because last year Bridgewater wasn't healthy either, so they were left with Skylar Thompson. But you want your quarterback to be healthy. It's more ideal when you're starting quarterbacks out there. But yeah, and obviously I got the Patriots and last in that division. I just don't see any scenario in which they finish any higher than last. But yeah, AFC East, Bills in first, Jets, Dolphins battle for second, Pats in last. AFC North, Bengals win, kind of same thing. This is kind of the same thing as the AFC East for the AFC North. Bengals win, Browns finish last, Steelers, Ravens battle for second and third. And I think some people are forgetting the Steelers actually won 7 of their last 9 games last year with Kenny Pickett as their starter. And the Ravens look good too. I think the Ravens might have the upper hand, but there is a real possibility that the Steelers come in second over the Ravens. AFC South, the Jags are probably going to win that. The Texans come in last. Then Colts and Titans are going to be... Either the Colts or Titans are going to be a distant second from Jacksonville. All right. AFC West, Chiefs are going to win that. I'd say Raiders coming last. I think the Broncos are going to make a slight improvement. But I'll probably give the Chargers the upper hand with them finishing second in that division. NFC East, Eagles win. Commanders coming last. Giants, Cowboys battle it out for second. NFC North, Lions win. Vikings probably come in second. And then either the Packers or Bears finish in last. Hopefully, Packers can finish in third. It would be quite depressing if the Packers came in last behind the Bears. Only time I can think of something that was more depressing was when we got eliminated from the playoffs by the Bears back in 2018. Not a good day for me there. But, all right. NFC South, Saints are going to win that. By far the best roster in the NFC South. Not saying much, but yeah, Saints win NFC South. I'm going to say the Bucs finish last. Then you got the Panthers and Falcons in the middle there. They're in a similar situation. The Panthers and Falcons both got young quarterbacks. Still trying to prove themselves. But honestly, the Falcons' offense is not that bad. Drake London is showing promise. They got Kyle Pitts, obviously, who's solid. They're just still a very young team, so I don't see them going very far this year. But we'll see. We'll see how they do. I don't see them getting past the Saints. All right, and finally, the NFC West. Niners win that. Cardinals finish last. And I think the Seahawks finish second. It's tough to say, because honestly, I can't tell if... Because the Rams, when you look at them on paper, they have a solid roster. I think it all depends on how Stafford performs. I mean, they got Cooper Kupp, who won the Super Bowl MVP just 2 years ago. They have a great coach. Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the league. And they just have overall a solid roster. So it's hard for me to believe they play that poorly again. But I don't know. The Seahawks, I think the Seahawks are more likely to take a drop than the Rams. Because who knows? I don't necessarily know if Geno Smith is the real deal. I mean, he looked really good last year, but there are those guys that come out and have one good year and then can't repeat it. So, all right. That's my division predictions for this year. No specific record. Just pretty much who I think will come in first, who will finish last. All right, let's move on to Justin Herbert's 5-year extension. And he's earned it. He's a great quarterback, obviously. Like I said yesterday, the Chargers have done a lot right in the past few years, honestly. There's very little they've done wrong. They've done more right than wrong, is what I'm saying. It's kind of shocking they haven't made a bigger jump. Obviously, last year, I think the only problem I have with them this year is their coach. We're uncertain of their coach, and when you don't know if their coach is good or not, it's hard to believe in them. For all the top teams in the league, we know if their coach is good and if their quarterback is good. I mean, the only kind of exception is the Niners. Brock Purdy had a great year last year, but it's, like I said, one good year. Not fully sold, but what's become evident of Kyle Shanahan is he doesn't need a great quarterback to win. He took Matt Ryan. When he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, he took Matt Ryan to the Super Bowl. And while Matt Ryan was a pretty good quarterback in his best days, he was never an MVP. He was never MVP level until Kyle Shanahan came there. And obviously it took Garoppolo to the Super Bowl as a head coach. So, Purdy doesn't really need to be anything too special. Just do what you did last year and you'll probably succeed again. And then you have Bengals. Burrow's great quarterback. Zach Taylor's a good coach. Bills, Sean McDermott, great coach. Josh Allen, elite quarterback. And Chiefs, Mahomes, Andy Reid, both great at what they do. So for the Chargers, we know Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. But is Brandon Staley a good coach? It's hard for me to understand, because what the Chargers were trying to do was make their defense better by getting a defensive coach. Brandon Staley was a defensive coordinator for the Rams before he went to Chargers, because the Chargers' offense is good. They got Eckler, Keenan Allen, Herbert, pretty good O-line. Their defense is the only problem. It's the only thing holding them back. So Brandon Staley was supposed to solve that problem, and it doesn't seem that he has. So when you're unsure of your coach, they believe in a team. And Herbert, he's proven he doesn't need much. He had, in his first year, I think he had a bottom 5 offensive line. He threw 30 touchdowns and 4,000 passes. 31 touchdowns, 10 picks, and over 4,000 passing yards. So, and it's just, if they fire Staley, Herbert will now be on his 3rd coach already. His career has not been long. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it works out for him. All right, so Dalvin Cook is still yet to be signed by a team, but I don't think this is a coincidence. Not too long after Rodgers signs his extension, Cook is now visiting the Jets. This might be a good fit. I just don't see... I don't know if it would be too good an idea to sign him because they got Breece Hall already in that mix. But obviously the positives in signing him, he'll actually give you some time to give Breece Hall more time to recover. Because an ACL tear can be huge. That could have a huge impact. It's rare that a player bounces back so quickly from a torn ACL. And if Breece Hall does it, great, but that's why I'm having... And obviously the Jets, even last year with Zach Wilson, they were 5-2 with Breece Hall in the lineup, so I'm not sure how much they need Cook, but he would definitely be a big help. But it's just, I feel like with all the money, it would be better to build your O-line because you need that more than you need a running back. All right. So Dak Prescott actually led the league in interceptions last year with 15. Jerry Jones said the expectation is for him to play clean, turn the ball over less, and I mean, it's kind of an obvious statement. He has to play clean to win, but when you look at the stats, the difference is huge. Because there's certain quarterbacks that can honestly throw a pick and still win. I mean, Matt Stafford threw a pick in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, still won. So when Dak Prescott even gets one turnover, he is 29-32. When he doesn't turn the ball over, he is 34-8. So significantly more successful when he plays cleaner. But I feel like if you were to look at, I don't know, let's say Aaron Rodgers' record. No, that's not fair because he never turns the ball over. But let's say Tom Brady's record when he turned the ball over versus when he didn't. I don't think it would be that different because he always found a way to win. I think, didn't he throw 2 interceptions in that Super Bowl against the Falcons? Still found a way to win, nonetheless. So, I mean, the crazy thing is the Cowboys have it. I mean, I wouldn't say they don't have Super Bowl potential, but they can go far this year. Because it's very possible that they're the third best team in the NFC. Because I think everyone can agree the Eagles and Niners are the top 2. But that place for the third best team is open. I think some people are even saying the Lions, which I don't disagree with necessarily. Because they made big strides last year offensively. But yeah, Rodgers and Brady are gone. Brady retired. Rodgers is back in the AFC now. But yeah, there's the Seahawks, maybe the Lions. Then there's the Cowboys, who have a real possibility of being that third best team. Because the NFC, unfortunately, it's kind of embarrassing when you compare it to the AFC. But I don't know. I feel like the Cowboys should be able to take advantage of this and have a pretty good season this upcoming year, but it's hard for me to believe in them because they really 4 playoff wins in the last 23 years for the Cowboys. Historically, they've been unsuccessful. All right, so Robert Saleh responded to the criticism, Sean Payton's criticism of Nathaniel Hackett and the Jets. As well, he had a pretty good response. Pretty much said, just gonna let him hate all he wants. But I actually like Robert Saleh as a head coach. I was a little worried that he'd be one of those kind of like. I was a little worried he would be another repeat of Todd Bowles, where he's much better as a defensive coordinator than a head coach. But he's definitely been a lot more successful than Todd Bowles, and I think he's doing a pretty good job considering what he was given, what he started with. So, and Nathaniel Hackett's another guy like that. He's, as I said earlier in the show, I think he's a good offensive coordinator, just a very bad coach. And Todd Bowles doubled down on that this year. He was the head coach last year for the Bucs, and they were significantly less successful. But when he was the defensive coordinator, they held the Chiefs to 9 points. That was the first time Mahomes never threw a touchdown in a game. They shut down one of the most explosive offenses in the league, like in recent memory. Held him to 9 points as a defensive coordinator. Everyone was saying he's the real MVP of the Super Bowl, and he was. But when he's a head coach, that cannot be said. All right, so Stefon Diggs spoke on the offseason drama recently. He pretty much said his only focus is winning. The offseason issues are water under the bridge. Great answer. I mean, said what had to be said. And honestly, Diggs, he actually brought up a good point. I think he's heading into year 9, which I didn't even realize. A lot older than I thought, Stephon Diggs. I'd say he'll turn out to be a Hall of Famer, Diggs. He's had quite the career. And the reason I think the Bills might drop off a bit, I do think it's a real possibility. There's 2 reasons. One, their division got a lot better. Dolphins got a lot better. Jets got a lot better. Which is new. I mean, they have had to kind of compete with the Dolphins the last few years, but the Dolphins have never been this good in a while. And the Jets definitely have not been this good in a while. So, so that's one reason. I think their division got a lot tougher. So, it's going to be harder to have the same success they've had in years prior. It's not that they lost anything. It's not that they lost any players. What they did lose is Brian Daboll, who is a great offensive coordinator, and I think a big reason why they were able to be so successful. I know they were successful last year, but that's because they're a great all-around team. They don't need offense to win. Their defense is great, too. They have Sean McDermott, a great defensive coach. But what I'm worried about is the fact that it seems like their offense wasn't as effective last year as it was the year prior, and I might be the only one that thinks that, but I don't think defensive coaches are the way anymore. Belichick worked for a while, but now when you look at the top teams, it's all offensive guys. Zach Taylor, offensive guy. Andy Reid, huge offensive guy. Nick Sirianni of the Eagles, offensive guy. Kyle Shanahan, offensive guy. So I'm worried that they lost Brian Daboll. I'm worried for their offense that they lost Brian Daboll. And their division's much harder than it was. Those are the 2 reasons I can see the Bills falling. And I said earlier in the show, I still have them winning the division. But I'm not ruling out the possibility that they drop off a bit and surprisingly lose. They surprisingly lose the division out to, say, the Dolphins or something. I don't know. Crazier things have happened, honestly. So, not ruling it out. Alright, final topic of the day. Sean McVay. He said that the Rams were unanimous in keeping Stafford as their quarterback. And I don't disagree. I think, like I said, their roster is very solid, and they didn't really lose anyone. The only worry I have is I don't know how much longer Stafford has left. And I'm not sure. Is it a possibility that, halfway through the season, if it's not working, do they just say, go off the whole thing, say we won our Super Bowl with Stafford? That's, go for someone else. I just think if Stafford isn't viable, I don't think they can be successful. Would I have them at right now? I'd say 7 to 8 wins, right? I think that's a good estimate. 7, 8 wins for the Rams. Honestly, I think it's a generous estimate, considering where they left last year. So, I mean, I don't know. All these preseason predictions for the NFL, they're never really that accurate, let's be real. A lot changes. So, yeah, we'll see. See how it all turns out. Alright, still Miller on Negative Dylan. I should be seeing you tomorrow, but on that note, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Negative Dylan. Have a good one.